Guys, I have some exciting news. I'm gonna become a beekeeper.
Now, whoa. Where did I get a crazy idea like this from? My mother. A few weeks back, she invited me to go to the local bee club's beekeeping class, and I was hooked. So we went home with 2 hives to start our apiary adventure together this year. I will be documenting this and sharing it with you so that we together can learn how to keep bees. But they have to go somewhere, right? So my first step is to find space. And these bees do have a little bit of pickiness.
So this is where my hive will be. It is slightly away from my mom's hive, which I suppose is the goal of every child, to be slightly away from their mother. The reason it's here is my idea is that it'll get nice morning sun, because it's not going to be blocked by the house or a tree or something. It'll get some wind protection from this tree line. My hope was for a little bit of shade here, but it looks like I have to move it a little farther back for about midday shade. The reason it's going to be up on cinder blocks is as an extra defense for the bees against predators. Then it's sitting on pavers to help keep the grass down around it. I'm not 100% sure that this is the best place for the beehive, but I think it'll do pretty well here. And if worse comes to worse, I could move it, but I think we're good. Quick little detour here. This is actually my mom's first hive. Unfortunately, the bees did not make it past their first year, and it has been abandoned ever since. But this will give you a good idea of what my hive will look like for once the bees arrive, with the brood box, minus the feeder, and then your outer and inner cover. So here's the outer cover, this inner cover, and the frames are still in here, and you can see where the wax is built out on these. So if a new bee colony decides to move in, they have a bit of a head start.
But we're going to do a little more than just putting a hive out there. So let me tell you about. So my bees are not going to get caught dead in anything that isn't absolutely snazzy. So I decided to decorate my beehive. And what I'm doing is I traced out exactly what I wanted to have on the hive on paper, put it into a vector program, traced it out. These are honey drips, by the way. They're going to go all the way around each of the boxes. Import this snazzy little SVG into my vinyl cutter, which will then cut out all of my stencils. Ugh, look at that peel. I am tearing off all of my hard work to get the stencil. Putting on that transfer tape, or else this thing's gonna bend like nobody's business. Sanding the boards, because I've got too much perfectionism in me. Now my design, it has a little too much detail, so I had to line up all the sides of all the boxes so I can make it look like the honey drip is continuous all the way around. Yeah, a lot of effort. So fair warning, this takes forever. And you'd think, after all the stress I experienced from procrastinating in school, I'd learn not to do it. But no, I worked all the way up till build day. Now this is a chemical mixture used to actually do the wood burning. It's a fun little mixture of ammonium chloride, thicket and water. Just paint this on everywhere where you want the wood to burn. And be generous, but not too generous so it can actually dry, because then you're going to let it dry. And then you're going to tear off all your hard work.
Okay, that was terrible.
Yes, this was terrible. It was harder than I thought it was going to be. It was painful. The more detailed you are, the more pain you will endure. Now comes the fun part. You get to burn it. Use a heat gun. It needs to be at least 400 degrees Fahrenheit. I think the hotter, the faster it's gonna burn, the more likely you're gonna go past the level of burn you want. If you want it burnt to a crisp, just keep going. Casually repeat that process 11 more times, and then I'll see you on.
Oh, it was maybe Saturday morning. That place is busy. Well, hopefully it's more.
The destination is on your left.
We're driving to the Bee Club's build day, the event where everybody in the club gets together and builds the hives. Oh yeah, that's my mom, by the way. Everything about build day was pretty efficient. They had all these stations that you would take your hive boxes to, your hive frames to, and you would do one part of it and move on down the line. So we would glue and screw the boxes together, and this was about the time we realized that burning the wood has a bit of a drawback. It actually warps the board with a bit of heat, so you're not getting a perfect fit, as you can see. And this one wasn't even a bad one. There were way worse ones when it came to warp. But they fit together, and the bees will fill in the cracks, so it's not a big worry. We got the option to have our boxes dipped, so this is the wax dipping process.
When I'm at home, I don't wipe it off, but it just ends up, if you don't wipe it off, whatever doesn't get drawn into the wood ends up just a blob everywhere, and it doesn't bother me at home, but it kind of looks terrible.
How long do you leave them in for?
12 minutes.
12 minutes.
Yep.
How did you start dipping boxes?
Well, as part of the bee culture, you're always attempting to find something better. And one of the issues we have is foul brood. European foul brood can be treated, but American foul brood cannot. So you got to destroy your boxes. And over in Europe, they have the problem with foul brood also. And what they started doing was, because foul brood is a spore-borne organism, so over in Europe they started dipping them in wax, and what they found was it slowed the spread of anything that was spore-borne because it couldn't penetrate the wood. So they were able to start salvaging hives. Here in America, if we have foul brood in a box, American foul brood, you have to burn the bees with your box.
Oh.
There's no way to get it out. And this isn't a cure for that, but it will help stop, it definitely helps cut down on the European.
So that excess wax doesn't want to hurt anything. It makes you careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that, and some of us were just lazy, didn't want to paint anymore. And one of the trade-offs they found over in Europe was this lasts about 20 years. So they don't have to paint their boxes. They just dip them, and that's about the life expectancy of a hive anyway.
I'll go find the one young gal who wants to paint first and tell her it'll be on it next.
Just put this on there to make sure sure it's submerged. Got this handy high-tech bungee cord to hold it down.
Super. Could you say what kind of wax was in it again? Paraffin and
Yeah, it's paraffin and microcrystalline.
microcrystalline.
Yep. And they've got a melting point around 150, 160. So we try to keep the tanks up to 270, 280. And that way it cooks all the way through. It's basically, we're just like you would deep fry your food, we're deep frying your boxes in wax.
Frame build time. So I'm putting eyelets into the sides of what will be the frame. There were a lot of them. We built for 210 frames. The bottoms and tops were put on, gluing and stapling with the help of this fancy little jig here. Then all the frames got wired. This is to help hold the wax on when it gets put in. And it was just wrapped around this nail, threaded through, and then the nail was pounded in to secure it. The wires had to be fairly tight, so we went through and we crimped them just to get the wire really tight. It was so tight you could play it like an instrument. The final step was to insert the wax frames. They just sat into the grooves that were already in the frames, and then you put this piece of wood on to hold the top in place, and you stapled it into position. This Frankenstein looking machine was for the final step, which was to melt the wax into the wire. And so all this does is run a current through the frame to melt the wax.
We just got done with build day. We were there starting at 1 and it's 7:13 now. So 6 hours of beehive building. I'm tired. What about you, Mom?
I am tired too. It was hard work, but wonderful fun and learning.
Yeah. The hives look good. There's the beehive all set up. Thanks for watching. I plan to get the bees next month, so tune in again then. Bye.